The yellow taxi's engine sputters to a stop outside the towering glass facade of the Grandview Plaza Hotel, its chrome and marble exterior reflecting the late afternoon sun like a beacon of privilege. Zara Williams sits frozen in the cracked vinyl back seat for a moment, her dark fingers gripping the worn straps of her backpack so tightly her knuckles have gone pale. Through the smudged window, she watches a parade of designer luggage roll past on golden carts, pushed by uniformed staff who move with practiced deference around guests draped in wealth. "That'll be $42.50, miss," the driver says, his eyes finding hers in the rearview mirror with a mixture of curiosity and concern. Zara counts out the crumpled bills from her grandmother's mason jar savings, leaving herself with exactly $17 for the next 2 days. The weight of her sacrifice settles in her chest, 3 years of weekend shifts at Nana's diner. Every tip carefully saved. Every dollar earned through burns from the grill and aching feet from 12-hour shifts. The hotel's revolving door spins endlessly, disgorging guests in tailored suits and silk dresses who glide across the marble floor as if they own the very air they breathe. Zara's reflection stares back at her from the polished surface. A young black girl in thrift store jeans and a carefully pressed blouse, clutching a backpack held together with safety pins and determination. "You belong anywhere you choose to be, baby girl." Her grandmother's voice echoes in her memory, spoken over countless bowls of grits and dreams too big for their small Alabama town. Zara steps onto the sidewalk, her worn sneakers silent against the pristine concrete. The Stanford acceptance letter crinkles softly in her back pocket, her golden ticket to a future that suddenly feels impossibly far away. She lifts her chin, squares her shoulders, and walks toward the entrance, unaware that her simple act of belonging is about to shatter like glass against the sharp edges of assumption and prejudice. The revolving door accepts her with mechanical indifference, delivering her into a world that has already decided she doesn't belong. The marble lobby stretches before Zara like an ocean of privilege, its crystal chandeliers casting fractured rainbows across surfaces so polished they mirror her every uncertain step. She hasn't taken 3 strides before she feels the weight of scrutiny settling on her shoulders like a heavy coat. Marcus Thompson adjusts his security badge and nudges his partner with an elbow sharp enough to cut glass. 20 years on the job has taught him to spot trouble, and in his mind, trouble wears thrift store clothes and carries dreams too big for its station. Derek Martinez follows his lead, their synchronized approach as practiced as a dance they've performed countless times before. "Excuse me, miss." Marcus's voice carries the false politeness of authority wrapped in velvet. "Can I help you find something?" The question hangs in the air like smoke, its implications clear to everyone within earshot. Zara's pulse quickens, but she forces her voice to remain steady, professional, the way Nana taught her to speak to customers who looked at her sideways. "I have a reservation, Zara Williams. I'm going to need to see some identification and your confirmation," Derek interjects, his hand resting casually on his radio. Behind them, a middle-aged white woman in a Chanel suit breezes past the front desk without so much as a glance from security. Zara's fingers tremble slightly as she pulls out her phone, scrolling to the email that represents everything she's worked for. The screen illuminates her face as she shows them the confirmation, her name clearly visible alongside the reservation number. Marcus squints at the phone with theatrical skepticism. "System's not showing anything under that name. You sure you got the right hotel? This is the Grandview Plaza, right?" Zara's voice cracks slightly, the first hairline fracture in her composure. "Maybe you're thinking of the Motel 6 down the street," Derek suggests with a smirk that doesn't reach his eyes. The words hit Zara like a physical blow. Around them, the lobby continues its elegant ballet. Guests checking in, bellhops gliding past with luggage, the soft ping of elevator doors. But now she notices the phones emerging from pockets, the subtle shift of bodies as people position themselves for better angles. She's become the entertainment, the spectacle that will pepper their social media feeds with righteous indignation or casual cruelty. "I belong here," she whispers, but her words are swallowed by the vast space and the growing certainty that belonging is something she'll have to fight for. The click of designer heels against marble announces Patricia Kellerman's arrival before she materializes through the crowd like a shark cutting through still water. Her silver hair is pulled into a bun so tight it seems to stretch her pale features into a permanent expression of disdain. 23 years of managing luxury hotels has taught her that image is everything, and right now, Zara Williams threatens the carefully curated atmosphere she spent her career perfecting. What seems to be the problem here? Patricia's voice carries the crisp authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. Marcus straightens, relieved to pass the burden upward. Young lady claims she has a reservation, but we can't find anything in the system. Patricia's ice blue eyes sweep over Zara with the efficiency of a scanner, cataloging every detail from her worn sneakers to her safety-pinned backpack. The assessment takes less than 3 seconds, but the verdict is already written in the slight curl of her lip. Miss, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises immediately. But I showed them my confirmation email, Zara protests, her voice gaining strength from desperation. I have a Stanford University interview tomorrow morning. I saved for 3 years to afford this room. The words hang in the air like a challenge Patricia refuses to acknowledge. She doesn't even glance at the phone Zara extends toward her, the confirmation email still glowing on the cracked screen. Stanford. Patricia's laugh is sharp as broken glass. Young lady, I don't know what game you're playing, but this establishment doesn't tolerate fraud or disruption. The accusation hits Zara like a slap. Around them, the crowd has thickened into a semicircle of spectators, their phones held high like modern-day torches. She can feel their judgment pressing against her skin, their whispered conversations creating a soundtrack of condemnation. I'm not lying, Zara's voice cracks, but she plants her feet wider, drawing strength from the marble beneath her shoes. I earned this. I worked for this. Security, escort this individual off the property. If she resists, call the police. The threat hangs between them like a loaded weapon. Zara's hands shake as she clutches her backpack straps, her grandmother's voice echoing in her memory. Sometimes standing up means standing alone. Baby girl, I'm not leaving, she whispers, then louder, her voice carrying across the lobby like a bell. I'm not leaving until someone actually checks that system. The murmurs from the crowd shift, but not in her favor. Entitled, someone whispers. Causing a scene, another voice adds. Patricia's smile is razor-thin as she reaches for her radio, knowing she holds all the cards in a game Zara never had a chance to win. Patricia's radio crackles to life as Marcus and Derek move with practiced efficiency, their hands finding Zara's arms with the casual brutality of men who've done this dance before. The lobby falls silent except for the soft whisper of expensive fabric and the mechanical hum of air conditioning that suddenly feels suffocating. Don't touch me. Zara's voice echoes off the vaulted ceiling, but her words are swallowed by the indifference of marble and crystal. The guards' grip tightens as they guide her toward the revolving doors, their movements choreographed by years of removing undesirables from spaces that were never meant for them. Zara's worn backpack catches on Marcus's uniform, the safety pin finally surrendering to the pressure. The sound of ripping fabric is followed by an explosion of papers, scholarship applications, recommendation letters, her grandmother's handwritten notes of encouragement, all cascading across the pristine floor like fallen leaves. Her Stanford acceptance letter skitters across the marble, coming to rest beneath the polished shoe of a woman in pearls who steps over it without a glance. My papers! Zara struggles against their hold, watching 3 years of dreams scatter like confetti. The phones are everywhere now, a constellation of glowing screens capturing every moment of her humiliation. But the cameras are pointed at her, not at the guards, not at Patricia's satisfied smile. She's the spectacle, the disruption, the problem to be solved. Please, just let me get my... Derek's hand finds the small of her back, propelling her forward with enough force to make her stumble. The revolving door accepts her like a mouth, chewing her up and spitting her onto the sidewalk where she belongs. The late afternoon sun feels harsh against her tear-streaked face as the city's indifferent symphony. Car horns, sirens, the chatter of passers-by, crashes over her. Her hands shake as she pulls out her phone, the cracked screen reflecting her fractured composure. Nana, her voice breaks on the single word. Baby girl? What's wrong? The kindness in her grandmother's voice shatters the last of Zara's composure. They threw me out, Nana. They said I was lying about Stanford. They wouldn't even check. Her words dissolve into sobs that rack her 17-year-old frame. Around her, the city continues its relentless pace, but Zara stands frozen on the sidewalk, feeling the weight of every assumption, every stereotype, every closed door that her skin color has ever earned her. The American dream feels like a cruel joke told at her expense. 3,000 miles away, in a glass tower that pierces the Seattle skyline like a steel needle, David Williams sits in his corner office reviewing quarterly projections when his personal phone buzzes. The name Baby Girl flashes across the screen, the only contact that can interrupt board meetings or billion-dollar negotiations. Daddy. Zara's voice is small, broken, nothing like the confident young woman who called him last week about her Stanford interview. David's pen stops mid-signature. In 30 years of building Williams Tech from a garage startup into a global empire, he's learned to read voices like stock reports. His daughter's carries the weight of something shattered. What happened? The story pours out between sobs. The hotel, the guards, the humiliation broadcast to strangers' phones. Each word lands like a physical blow against David's chest. He built his fortune to ensure his children would never face the discrimination that nearly destroyed his own dreams. Yet here it is, reaching through privilege and success to wound his daughter anyway. Sir. His assistant, Jennifer, appears in the doorway with her tablet, her expression shifting from professional efficiency to concern as she notices his face. The Grandview Plaza acquisition. There's something you need to see. The tablet screen shows a Twitter video with 50,000 views and climbing. The caption reads, "Entitled girl tries to scam luxury hotel, gets what she deserves." David watches his daughter, his brilliant, kind, hard-working daughter, being dragged across marble floors while strangers film her pain for entertainment. Pull up everything on the Grandview Plaza chain. David's voice is glacier quiet, the tone that makes seasoned executives check their retirement plans. Staff records, management structure, security protocols. Everything. Jennifer's fingers fly across her tablet. Sir, Williams Tech acquired controlling interest in Grandview Hospitality Group just last month. The paperwork finalized yesterday. The irony tastes like ash in David's mouth. His own company owns the building where his daughter was brutalized, the marble floors where her dreams were scattered like worthless paper. Get me Patricia Kellerman on the line. Now. Sir. She's the general manager of... I know exactly who she is. David's reflection stares back from the floor-to-ceiling windows. A black man who clawed his way from poverty to power, who thought money could build walls high enough to protect his family from the poison that still runs through America's veins. He was wrong. But power, real power, that's different. That's a language everyone understands. His phone rings. The reckoning begins. The black limousine glides to a stop outside the Grandview Plaza like a hearse arriving for a funeral. David Williams emerges from the leather interior, his charcoal suit immaculate, his expression carved from stone. Behind him, 3 attorneys in matching briefcases follow like pallbearers, while the hotel chain's board of directors trail at a respectful distance, their faces pale with the understanding that careers are about to end. The same revolving door that expelled his daughter now admits the man who owns it. The lobby falls silent as David's presence fills the space like gathering storm clouds. Guests pause mid-conversation, sensing the shift in atmospheric pressure that precedes lightning. Patricia Kellerman smooths her skirt as she approaches, her practiced smile faltering when she notices the entourage. Mr. Williams, what an unexpected pleasure. I wasn't aware you were visiting our property. Conference room. Now. David's voice carries the weight of boardroom authority. Bring your security team. The mahogany conference table reflects the faces of the condemned as Marcus and Derek shuffle in, their earlier confidence evaporating like morning mist. Patricia takes her seat at the head of the table, still clinging to the illusion that she controls this space. I'd like you to meet my daughter, David says, his words falling like hammer blows. The wall-mounted screen flickers to life, displaying the viral video that has now reached 2 million views. Zara's face fills the frame. Young, terrified, dignified even in her humiliation. The audio crackles as her voice pleads for basic human decency, while hands drag her across marble floors. Patricia's face drains of color as understanding crashes over her like a cold wave. Marcus grips the table edge, his knuckles white as bone. Derek's mouth opens and closes soundlessly, a fish drowning in air. That's my 17-year-old daughter being assaulted in my hotel by my employees. Mr. Williams, I had no idea. We never would have. If we'd known who she was. Stop. David's voice cuts through Patricia's, stammering like a blade. You've said enough. The fact that you would have treated her differently if you'd known her parentage tells me everything I need to know about your character. The silence stretches taut as a wire. Outside, the city continues its indifferent dance. But inside this room, Justice wears a $1,000 suit and speaks in quarterly reports. You're terminated. All of you. Security will escort you out. David's words are final as death certificates. This hotel will be rebuilt from the ground up, starting with its soul. The reckoning has only just begun. 2 weeks later, Zara Williams walks through the same revolving doors that once expelled her. But this time she carries herself like the owner she technically is. The marble lobby has been transformed, not in its physical appearance, but in its energy. New faces behind the front desk look up with genuine warmth, their training evident in eyes that see guests rather than stereotypes. The crystal chandeliers cast the same fractured rainbows across polished surfaces, but now they illuminate possibility instead of prejudice. Maria Santos, the new general manager, greets Zara with a handshake that carries the weight of genuine respect. A first-generation immigrant from El Salvador, Maria understands the sting of assumption, the burden of proving worthiness in spaces that question your right to exist. Her appointment wasn't tokenism. It was recognition that empathy can't be taught in boardrooms, only lived in the trenches of experience. The lines around her eyes speak of late nights studying English, of cleaning offices to pay for business school, of climbing ladders that others were born standing on. Miss Williams, the staff is assembled as you requested. Maria says, her accent carrying the musical cadence of someone who learned English as a love letter to opportunity. The conference room where careers ended and new beginnings were born now buzzes with nervous energy. 50 employees fill the space. Housekeepers, bellhops, front desk clerks, restaurant staff. Their face is a mosaic of ethnicities and backgrounds that better reflects the world beyond these walls. Some fidget with their uniforms, others lean forward with curiosity, but all carry the weight of knowing they're part of something larger than hospitality. The mahogany table that once witnessed terminations now serves as an altar for transformation. Zara stands at the head of the table where her father delivered justice, but her mission is different. She's not here to punish. She's here to plant seeds in soil that's finally ready to grow. The morning light streams through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting her silhouette against the city skyline like a young prophet addressing her congregation. Her reflection in the polished table surface shows not the broken girl from the viral video, but a young woman who has alchemized pain into purpose. I want to tell you about a 17-year-old girl who saved every tip for 3 years. She begins, her voice steady as bedrock, who worked double shifts at her grandmother's diner, who earned a full scholarship to Stanford University, and who was treated like a criminal for the crime of existing while black. The room falls silent except for the soft scratch of pens as reporters capture every word. CNN, NBC, The Washington Post. The story has grown beyond a viral video into a national conversation about dignity, assumption, and the price of prejudice. But Zara's focus remains on the faces before her, each one representing a choice between perpetuating harm or fostering healing. She sees recognition in some eyes, shame in others, and hope flickering like candle flames in the darkness of institutional indifference. That girl was me, but she could have been anyone. Your daughter, your sister, your neighbor. The question isn't whether you would have treated me differently if you'd known my father's name. The question is why anyone should have to prove their worth to receive basic human respect. James Rodriguez, a bellhop who's worked at the hotel for 15 years, shifts uncomfortably in his seat. He remembers the day with crystalline clarity, the way Zara's voice cracked when she pleaded for dignity, the sound of her papers scattering across marble like broken dreams. He remembers watching the scene unfold, remembers the relief he felt that it wasn't him being dragged across the marble, remembers the cowardice that kept him silent when courage was required. The shame of his inaction burns in his chest like acid, but Zara's words offer something he didn't expect: redemption through recognition. "I've been where you are," Zara continues, her gaze sweeping across the room like a lighthouse beam cutting through fog. "Working jobs where you're invisible until you make a mistake, where your humanity is conditional on your usefulness. I know what it's like to smile while someone treats you like you don't belong in your own skin." The viral video plays on the wall-mounted screen, but this time it's not evidence for prosecution. It's a mirror reflecting uncomfortable truths. Zara watches herself being dragged across the floor, but the pain has transformed into purpose, the humiliation alchemized into hope. The footage that once made her want to disappear now serves as testimony to the resilience of the human spirit. She sees herself as she was: young, terrified, alone, and as she is now: empowered, determined, unbroken. "Today, we're launching the Zara Williams Scholarship Fund," she announces, her voice gaining strength like a river fed by tributaries of determination. "Every year, 50 students from underserved communities will receive full funding for college interviews, including hotel accommodations, meals, and transportation. Because dreams shouldn't be limited by zip codes or bank accounts." The applause starts slowly, tentatively, then builds into something that sounds like thunder rolling across mountains. But Zara raises her hand for silence. She's not finished painting this vision of possibility. The sound dies away, leaving only the whisper of air conditioning and the distant hum of city traffic beyond the windows. This fund isn't charity. It's investment. It's recognition that brilliance exists in every neighborhood, every background, every skin color. It's acknowledgement that the next scientist, artist, leader, or innovator might walk through those doors carrying a backpack held together with safety pins and dreams too big for their circumstances. Dr. Elizabeth Chen, Stanford's director of admissions, had called personally 3 days after the video went viral. The conversation had been unlike any admissions call in Zara's experience. Not a formal interview, but a human connection forged in the crucible of shared understanding. "We've never seen such grace under pressure," Dr. Chen had said, her voice carrying the weight of institutional authority softened by genuine admiration. "You're exactly the kind of leader we need. Your interview is a formality. Your character has already been tested in the crucible of public humiliation and emerged stronger." The interview itself had been transformative. Sitting across from Dr. Chen in her oak-paneled office, surrounded by diplomas and awards that spoke to decades of academic excellence, Zara had spoken not about her father's wealth or her academic achievements, but about the power of dignity in the face of dehumanization. She'd talked about her grandmother's hands, scarred from years of kitchen work, and how those same hands had written notes of encouragement that sustained her through the darkest moments. "Tell me about your goals," Dr. Chen had asked, leaning forward with the intensity of someone who recognized potential when she saw it. "I want to build bridges," Zara had replied without hesitation. "Not just between communities, but between the America we are and the America we could become. I want to create spaces where a young person's worth isn't determined by their zip code or the designer label on their clothes." Dr. Chen had smiled then, the kind of smile that comes from witnessing something rare and precious. "You're already building those bridges, Miss Williams. Stanford would be honored to provide you with the tools to build them stronger." The acceptance had come not as a surprise, but as validation. Proof that her voice carried weight beyond her father's influence, that her story mattered independent of his wealth. Now, standing before the hotel staff, Zara sees those bridges taking shape in real time. The Williams Foundation's comprehensive bias training program isn't just corporate mandate. It's cultural revolution disguised as professional development. Role-playing exercises force employees to confront their assumptions, while guest speakers share stories that humanize the statistics of discrimination. Change doesn't happen in boardrooms, Zara tells the assembled staff, her words carrying the weight of lived experience. It happens in moments like this, when we choose to see each other as human beings deserving of respect, regardless of the clothes we wear or the color of our skin. It happens when we decide that hospitality means welcoming all souls who seek shelter. The questions come slowly at first, then in a flood that threatens to overwhelm the carefully structured presentation. How do we recognize our biases? What do we do when we witness discrimination? How do we create spaces where everyone feels welcome? How do we unlearn decades of conditioning that taught us to see difference as threat? Zara answers each one with the patience of someone who understands that transformation is a process, not an event. She shares stories from her own life: the teacher who assumed she was in the wrong advanced placement class, the store clerk who followed her through aisles, the college counselor who suggested she am lower than her dreams demanded. Microaggressions are death by 1,000 cuts. She explains to a young front desk clerk who asks about subtle forms of discrimination. They're the assumptions that chip away at someone's sense of belonging until they start to believe they don't deserve to take up space in the world. As the session ends and employees file out, many approach Zara personally. Some offer apologies for their silence during her ordeal. Others share their own stories of discrimination and exclusion, creating an impromptu support group in the shadow of corporate transformation. The conference room becomes a confessional where guilt transforms into commitment, where shame evolves into solidarity. James Rodriguez waits until the room empties before approaching, his weathered hands trembling slightly as he removes his bellhop cap. The gold braiding catches the light, a symbol of service that suddenly feels heavy with the weight of moral failure. "Miss Williams," he says, his voice thick with emotion that's been building for 2 weeks. "I was here that day. I watched and I did nothing. I've carried that shame like a stone in my chest." Zara looks into his eyes and sees her own reflection. Not the victim from the viral video, but the young woman who chose to transform pain into purpose. She sees a man wrestling with the weight of complicity, the burden of witnessing injustice and choosing silence over solidarity. "Then help me make sure it never happens again," she says simply, extending her hand in a gesture that offers forgiveness and demands accountability in equal measure. Standing in the lobby afterward, watching diverse families check in without suspicion, Zara realizes her voice carries power that transcends her father's wealth. The viral video that was meant to shame her has become a catalyst for change, proof that sometimes the most profound victories rise from the ashes of our deepest wounds. The marble floors that once scattered her dreams now reflect a future where dignity isn't a privilege to be earned, but a right to be protected. The revolution begins with recognition, and recognition begins with seeing each other as human.